Welcome to Leaf and Ladder, a calm green space where we grow, nurture, and thrive together. And I want to sincerely thank you for being here, whether you are a gardener tending to your first pot of soil, an aesthetic lover drawn to the beauty of greenery and curated spaces, a history buff fascinated by how ancient civilizations cultivated plants for food, medicine, and symbolism, a scientist or researcher exploring plant biology, ecosystems, and environmental balance, or simply a nature lover who finds peace in the quiet presence of leaves and growth. Your presence here matters deeply, and I'm grateful that you've chosen to spend this time learning and growing together. In this beginner plant care guide, I want to walk you through everything you need to know to start your journey with confidence, without overwhelm, because plant care is not about perfection, it is about observation, patience, and connection. And once you understand that plants are living systems responding to light, water, air, and soil, everything becomes much simpler. So let's begin with the foundation, light, which is the most important factor in plant health, because without proper light, no amount of watering or fertilizing will help your plant thrive, and in nature, plants evolve to adapt to specific light environments, whether that is bright tropical sunlight filtering through canopies or shaded understory conditions in forests. And as a beginner, your first task is to observe your space, notice where natural light enters your home, how it shifts during the day, and which areas receive bright indirect light versus direct harsh sun, because most common houseplants prefer bright indirect light, meaning they enjoy being near a window but not scorched by direct midday rays. And if you are a researcher or science-minded viewer, you can think of this as optimizing photosynthetic efficiency, where chlorophyll absorbs light energy most effectively within a certain intensity range before photoinhibition occurs. And if you are more aesthetically inclined, think of it as placing your plants where they glow naturally in soft light, enhancing the visual harmony of your space. And once light is understood, we move into watering, which is where most beginners struggle, not because it is complicated, but because it is often misunderstood as a fixed schedule rather than a responsive action. You know, plants do not drink on timers. They respond to soil, moisture, levels, temperature, humidity, and seasonal changes. So instead of watering every day or every Sunday, you should learn to check the soil by touch, inserting your finger about 2 inches deep and feeling whether it's dry or still moist. And if it is dry, then water thoroughly until it drains from the bottom, ensuring the roots receive hydration while excess water exits freely. Because roots require both water and oxygen, and too much water without airflow leads to root rot, a condition where anaerobic bacteria break down root tissues. This is one of the most common causes of plant failure, especially for beginners who care deeply and therefore, well, overwater. And it is important to understand that underwatering is often easier for plants to recover from than overwatering, because dry roots can be revived, but rotting roots often cannot. And for history enthusiasts, it is interesting to note that ancient agricultural societies learned this balance through observation over centuries, developing irrigation systems that controlled water flow rather than flooding crops continuously. That same principle applies to your indoor plants today. Controlled and mindful hydration, not excess. Next, we move into soil, which is the living foundation of plant life, because soil is not just dirt, it is a complex ecosystem filled with minerals, organic matter, microorganisms, fungi, and air pockets that all work together to support root systems. And as a beginner, your goal is to ensure your plant has well-draining soil that allows water to pass through, while retaining enough moisture for absorption. Different plants have different needs, but most common houseplants thrive in a mix that includes peat or cocoa, coir, for moisture retention, perlite for aeration, and organic matter for nutrients. And if you are scientifically curious, you can think of soil as a biochemical interface where nutrient exchange, microbial symbiosis, and root respiration occur simultaneously. This living system is what allows plants to grow, adapt, and survive. When soil becomes compacted or waterlogged, oxygen levels drop, microbial balance is disrupted, and roots struggle to function, which is why soil health is just as important as watering or light. Now let's talk about pots and drainage, which is a simple but critical concept because no matter how good your soil is, if your pot does not have drainage holes, water will accumulate at the bottom, creating stagnant conditions that suffocate roots, and so always choose containers that allow excess water to escape. And if you are drawn to aesthetic design, there are many beautiful pots available that combine function and style, but always prioritize plant health first, because a thriving plant is more beautiful than any decorative container. And for researchers or systems thinkers, you can view this as an open-loop system versus a closed-loop system where drainage creates balance and prevents accumulation of harmful excess moving forward. We come to humidity and air circulation, which are often overlooked but incredibly important, especially for tropical plants that naturally grow in humid environments, and indoor air, especially in air-conditioned or heated spaces, can become quite dry, affecting leaf hydration and growth, so occasionally misting plants, grouping them together, or placing water trays nearby can help increase local humidity, and gentle airflow also prevents mold and pests while strengthening plant stems, similar to how wind in natural environments helps plants develop structural resilience. Next is fertilization, which is essentially providing nutrients that may not always be available in soil over time, because as plants grow, they consume nitrogen for leaf development, phosphorus for root and flower growth, and potassium for overall health. And, while beginners do not need to overcomplicate this, using a balanced, diluted fertilizer during the growing season can support healthy development. But it is important not to overfeed, because excess fertilizer can burn roots and disrupt soil balance. So, think of fertilization as supplementation, not necessity in excess, kind of like dietary balance in living organisms. Now let's discuss observation, which is perhaps the most important skill in plant care because plants communicate through visual cues. Yellowing leaves may indicate overwatering or nutrient deficiency, drooping leaves may signal thirst or stress, brown edges may suggest low humidity or salt buildup, and slow growth may indicate insufficient light. Learning to read these signs transforms plant care from guesswork into understanding. For scientists and researchers, this is a form of biological feedback analysis, where environmental conditions produce observable phenotypic responses. Pests are another aspect to be aware of, including common intruders like spider mites, aphids, and fungus gnats, which often appear when conditions are imbalanced. Early detection is key, using gentle treatments like neem oil, soap sprays, or simply adjusting environmental conditions to restore equilibrium. As we continue, I want to emphasize patience, because plants operate on biological time, not human urgency. Growth is often happening beneath the soil long before it is visible above it, especially in root development, which forms the foundation of stability, and nutrition, absorption. For aesthetic lovers, this slow unfolding is part of the beauty, a living artwork that changes subtly day by day. For history buffs, it is worth reflecting on how plants have shaped civilizations, from medicinal herbs in ancient Egypt to agricultural revolutions that built economies, to botanical exploration that expanded scientific understanding of the natural world. And for scientists, plants remain one of the most vital subjects of study in climate regulation, carbon cycles, and ecological sustainability. For nature lovers, plants are simply companions in a shared ecosystem that quietly support life itself. As we bring this guide toward a close, I want you to remember that you do not need to be perfect to start. You only need to observe, learn, and adjust, because every plant teaches you something new, and every mistake becomes experience that builds confidence. Whether you are growing a single plant on a windowsill or building an entire indoor jungle, the journey is the same: attention, care, and patience. And finally, from all of us here at Leaf and Ladder, I want to sincerely thank you for watching, for learning, and for being part of this growing community. If this guide helped you in any way, I encourage you to subscribe, share this content with others who love plants or are just beginning their journey, and continue growing with us, one leaf at a time. Because together we are not just growing plants, we are growing awareness, calmness, and connection with the natural world that sustains us all.